Hey guys, tonight we drift quietly through the misty waters of ancient Lake Xochimilco, just south of what's now Mexico City. The air is thick with the scent of damp earth and water lilies, the sky dimming into twilight as your canoe glides past floating gardens, thick green rectangles rising out of the lake like magic carpets stitched from mud, sticks, and hope. These are chinampas, the Aztecs' legendary floating fields, and right now, they're brimming with snacks you've never heard of but are about to want, badly. But don't get too comfortable. Between the mosquitoes the size of lentils, the maze of canals that'll definitely drown you if you fall in, and the fact that human sacrifice is still a casual Tuesday around here, you probably won't survive this. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Drop your location and the local time in the comments. I want to know what corner of the world you're unwinding from. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You pull your woven cloak a little tighter as a cool breeze slides across the water. Up ahead, a man in a feathered cape is poking the ground with a pointed stick. He's checking soil moisture on one of the chinampas, these engineered rafts of mud and vegetation that somehow produce more food per square meter than nearly any garden in the modern world. The rows are perfect. Corn stalks nod in the wind. Chili bushes gleam with red pearls. Squash vines curl over the edges, practically dangling snacks right into your canoe. You hop out, the lake water soaking your sandals, and squelch across the edge of the plot. A woman nearby is gently brushing dirt from the roots of a leafy plant. Episode, she tells you, a pungent herb used to season beans and maybe ward off intestinal regret. She offers you a raw bean pod. It's earthy, oddly sweet, and gives your jaw something satisfying to chew on. Snack? She asks. You nod, chewing, already wondering what's next. These chinampas aren't floating in the way pool toys do. They're more like anchored barges of earth tethered by ancient technique. The Aztecs piled up mud dredged from the lake bottom, layered it with reeds and aquatic plants like tule and water hyacinth, and framed the whole thing with rows of willow trees whose roots literally stitched the garden into place. It's a feat of horticultural engineering that's equal parts genius and straight-up stubbornness. Mainstream historians agree this system allowed the Aztecs to feed their booming population in Tenochtitlan, possibly as many as 200,000 people, which, at the time, made it one of the largest cities on Earth. But here's the fun bit: archaeologists still argue whether chinampas were purely practical, or if they also served ritualistic functions, like being designed according to sacred geometry, or aligning with specific stars. You're standing in a salad bowl of speculation and spinach. As you crunch across a freshly raked path, a farmer gestures toward a mound of what looks like blackened mulch. He breaks it open, revealing the smell of composted lake sediment, ripe, rich, fertile in a way you can actually taste on the back of your tongue. This is the stuff that powers the snack economy. Forget sterile dirt. This soil feels alive. A small boy runs past, carrying a flat cake of spirulina algae, balanced like a tray of muffins. You blink. That's edible? He shrugs. If you're hungry. You tuck that one away for later. It's getting darker, but the gardens don't sleep. Nearby, a group of gardeners are harvesting squash blossoms under torchlight. You hear a flute in the distance. Probably someone selling tamales or trying to summon a goddess, could be either. A bat flutters by. You sweat a mosquito. The vibe is rural, ritual, and ridiculously delicious. Suddenly you're handed a roasted chili wrapped in a leaf. You bite in. The heat smacks your sinuses open like a door in a hurricane. Someone laughs. First time? You nod, coughing and crying, and they slap your back like you're now one of the crew. These chinampas weren't just farms. They were community hubs. Social snack spots. Places where people met, traded, laughed, and maybe judged you if you couldn't handle the local spice. Here's something that'll keep you awake. The Aztecs believed food had divine energy, and the act of growing, cooking, and eating was layered with meaning. Certain snacks were reserved for nobles, warriors, or priests. Others, like corn and beans, were so foundational that they made up what scholars sometimes call the Mesoamerican Trinity. But even this trinity has controversy baked in. Historians still debate whether amaranth should count as a fourth sacred crop, especially since it shows up so often in ceremonial offerings and snack carts. But back to you, on this moist little miracle raft of nutrition. You pause, take in the sounds: soft wind, trickling water, the occasional squawk of a heron diving for fish. There's something dreamy about the whole scene, like walking through a garden designed by someone who was equal parts farmer, priest, and poet. A hand touches your shoulder. It's the old woman from earlier. She presses a warm tamal into your palm. You eat now, she says. You're in the Chinampa. You work, you snack. The tamal is soft, made with fluffy masa, and filled with what might be beans, squash, and some kind of smoked pepper paste that tingles your lips. It's not sweet. It's not salty. It's simply right. You sit by the edge of the garden, feet dangling just above the water, and finally exhale. The sun is gone, but the snacks have only just begun. You're already a little sleepy, and that tamal isn't helping, but there's still work to do. Just beyond the last corn stalk, a group of gardeners are pulling reeds from the lake's edge and dragging thick, dark bundles of mud onto the Chinampa's surface. You wander over, curious, and someone hands you a woven basket. We're building more ground, they say. Want to try? You kneel beside them and sink your hands into the water. It's cold, with a silty richness that clings to your skin like paint. You dredge a thick slab of lakebed muck and plop it onto the edge of the Chinampa. It smells like the inside of a wet log, but this stuff is gold. This is what makes the gardens float. Okay, they don't technically float. This isn't some magical farm raft gliding across the lake with butterflies and panpipes in the background. Chinampas are more like anchored platforms, built from layers: mud, plant matter, mud again, repeat. They're stitched together with reed mats and pegged into place with ahujo trees, kind of like weeping willows, whose roots dive deep into the lakebed and hold the whole soggy operation steady. And they work. Ridiculously well. You help stack more reeds, working alongside a boy no older than 10 who seems to know exactly what angle each stalk should face. So the water runs off evenly, he says. You nod, pretending you knew that. Mainstream historians marvel at how sustainable Chinampas are. The Aztecs managed to turn a marsh into one of the most productive agricultural systems in the world, without plows, draft animals, or chemical fertilizers. Everything was organic. Everything recycled. The lake gave mud, the crops gave food, the waste went back to the lake. Perfect eco-loop. Very trendy. You imagine a hipster bar in Brooklyn trying to recreate this with houseplants and kombucha. But not everyone agrees on how ancient these gardens are. Some archaeologists argue that Chinampas go back to the Teotihuacan period, while others claim they were a Mexica innovation post-1325 C. Historians still argue whether the Aztecs invented Chinampas themselves, or adapted older methods from earlier cultures like the Xochimilca. Either way, what matters is this: these islands grew snacks. A lot of snacks. The soil you're slathering down now is loaded with nutrients from aquatic plants, decomposed fish bits, and the occasional mystery sludge. Add in a little crushed charcoal or kitchen ash, and boom, you've got a growing medium that puts modern potting mix to shame. Even today, this lake soil is prized by local gardeners who still work small Chinampas in Xochimilco, despite creeping city sprawl and TikTok dance tourists clogging the canals. Your back is starting to ache, but the workers keep going. No brakes. No sandals. Just squish squish and quiet humming. Someone's whistling a song about a heron who falls in love with a cactus. Or maybe it's about maize. Hard to tell, your Nahuatl is rusty. An older gardener, his hair silver, his arms like tree trunks, points out the willow trees planted at each corner of the Chinampa. They hold the soul of the land, he says. Without the ahujotes, it all drifts apart. You touch the bark. It's cool, papery. Birds perch above you, waiting for snacks of their own, grubs, beetles, maybe your lunch if you're not careful. Speaking of grubs, one of the workers uncovers a fat white worm while scooping up a clump of lake mud. He winks. Protein, he says. You smile politely and step back. Not tonight, thanks. But the Aztecs weren't squeamish about nature's more wriggly offerings. In fact, they understood that maintaining these gardens meant interacting with everything: worms, insects, birds, microbes. Nothing was wasted. Even human waste, yes, that kind, was collected in night soil containers and later composted into fertilizer. Delightful. You make a mental note to never eat a snack without asking how it was grown. Still, despite the mud and the squish, the work has a rhythm. You fall into it. Stack reeds, scoop mud, press it down. Someone's tending a nearby fire to make tlaxcali, thick corn tortillas, warming them on a smooth clay griddle. You catch the scent, earthy, nutty, almost sweet. A snack break, maybe? You sit for a moment, wiping your hands on your tunic. A young girl offers you a tlaxcali topped with mashed beans and chopped episode. It's warm. Simple. Perfect. A snack that tastes like earth and effort. You close your eyes as you chew, the lake breeze brushing against your skin like a lullaby. Suddenly, someone shouts. A small boat is approaching from the West Canal, loaded with baskets. You squint. Tomatoes. Squash. Something dark green and feathery. Probably amaranth leaves. The boatman greets the gardeners with a raised paddle. This is trade. This is circulation. Chinampas didn't just feed a household, they supported entire neighborhoods, with extras taken to the great markets of Tenochtitlan. Here's a quirky tidbit. Some scholars suggest that certain Chinampas were semi-private snack zones. Like family garden plots passed down through generations, each one might specialize. One family growing extra squash for candies, another for flour production, another cultivating the best chilies. Imagine the neighborhood rivalry. Oh, you still eat Marcos's squash? How brave. You chuckle, biting into another tortilla. It's easy to see how this system wasn't just agriculture, it was culture. The garden shaped who ate what, when, and with whom. Birthdays? Tamales. Victories? Chili-drenched beans. Love spells? Probably involved flour syrup, frogs, and prayers whispered into the lake. As twilight deepens, the garden glows with torchlight. Frogs sing. A child hands you a piece of candied squash, sticky and golden. From my mother's Chinampa, he says proudly. You taste it. Soft. Sweet. Surprising. Like eating sunlight trapped in a vegetable. You finish your snack, belly full of mud-grown magic, and lean back against a bundle of reeds. A heron calls in the distance. Somewhere, a flute begins to play again. Tomorrow, you'll explore the cornfields. But tonight, let the earth settle in your bones. You wake before the sun, your back sore from sleeping on bundled reeds and your breath fogging in the cool morning air. The lake is still, wrapped in silence like it's holding its breath. Then you hear it, a soft rustle, a shuffling of sandals, the creak of canoe wood. The Chinampa is already alive. Farmers are out with baskets, and this morning's star is the true monarch of Mesoamerican snacks, corn. Now don't roll your eyes. You've seen corn before, on cobs, in ships, inside regrettable fast food burritos. But this is not that corn. This is ancient maize, and it's got more personalities than a drama club at midnight. You walk between neat rows of tall stalks, some reaching nearly 8 feet high. Their colors vary. Some husks are pale gold, others streaked with purple, maroon, even deep blue. The kernels peek out like gemstones, and when the farmers peel the husks back to check the maturity, it's like someone unwrapping edible treasure. You crouch beside a cluster of ears and help gather them. The air smells grassy and toasted, like sunshine and dry leaves. One of the farmers breaks open a cob with dark, almost black kernels. Tlalix corn, he jokes. Makes good tortillas. Bad dreams. You laugh, not sure if he's serious. Here's your mainstream historical fact. Corn was the foundational crop of the Aztec diet. Maize wasn't just food, it was identity. The Mexica people believed humans were created from masa, the sacred corn dough. And if you weren't made of it, you certainly ate enough of it to qualify. Every part of this corn was used, the kernels for food, the husks for wrapping tamales, the stalks for fuel or fencing, and the cobs themselves sometimes burned and crushed into fertilizer. Nothing wasted. The snack cycle never ends. But here's the kicker: this wasn't just one kind of corn. Oh no. The Aztecs cultivated dozens of varieties, each with its own vibe. Some were better for atole, a warm corn drink that hugged your insides. Others made crisp tortillas or crumbly tamales. There was popcorn, sweet corn, tough grinding corn for flour, and ceremonial varieties used only during specific festivals. Historians still argue whether certain rare purple cobs were bred for taste or for spiritual use. Maybe both. You could snack and honor the gods. You pick up a cob of olatillo, a type prize for making soft, puffy tortillas. A nearby cook hands you one fresh off the griddle. You take a bite, no salsa, no beans, no cheese. Just corn. And somehow, it's better than most full meals you've had. Nutty, fluffy, warm. The kind of snack that makes you feel hugged. A teenage girl grinds kernels on a stone metate, adding a splash of lime water. Nixtamalization, she explains. It sounds fancy, but it's simple science. By soaking corn in an alkaline solution, the Aztecs unlocked its full nutrition and flavor. Without this step, you'd get pellagra. With it, you get delicious masa, packed with niacin and a smooth, earthy taste. Quirky fact incoming: there was actually a corn god, Santiago, and festivals in his honor sometimes involved young people dressed as corn stalks, dancing awkwardly in the fields. Somewhere between reverent and ridiculous. Like a TikTok trend with spiritual weight. And not all corn went straight to food. Some was dried and saved for hard times. Some was made into popcorn, yes, actual, crunchy popcorn, and flavored with chili and salt. Street vendors near Tenochtitlan's main market sold popcorn balls bound with syrup or honey, kind of like Mesoamerican Rice Krispies. You chew one thoughtfully. It's sweet and a little smoky, and you're pretty sure your modern snack brain is being rewired. An elder farmer invites you to help thresh. You kneel with him and stomp on a pile of dried ears, loosening the kernels into a cloth. He grins. Corn does not feed you quickly. It tests you. His hands are cracked, calloused, and stained with color from years of harvest. Each wrinkle looks like it could tell you which corn makes the best stew for rainy days. You ask if he ever eats wheat. He snorts. What's that? Exactly. Wheat, brought by the Spanish, hadn't yet crashed this party. Corn was everything. Farmers offered it to gods, lovers, and war captains. It was mashed, roasted, fermented, turned into cakes, drinks, porridge, or just eaten straight off the cob by kids who didn't know how lucky they were. You help load baskets onto a canoe headed to the market. It's filled with yellow corn, destined for fresh tortillas, and blue corn, maybe for ceremonial tamales. One woman is bringing only the tips, the small, soft, sweet ends of each cob. Snack pieces, she tells you. For journeys. And not just physical ones. Corn snacks played a role in metaphysical travel too. Priests would fast for days, then break it with sacred maize. Warriors carried hardened cornmeal patties into battle. It wasn't just food, it was protection. You bite into another tortilla, this time wrapped around spicy beans and roasted squash. The balance is perfect. Soft, crunchy, creamy, hot. A snack designed with centuries of thought behind it. Somewhere nearby, a bird shrieks, a white egret flying low over the water. A child tosses him a few kernels. Everyone's sharing today. The sun is higher now. The chinampa glistens. Your stomach is full of ancient maize and curiosity. You wipe your hands on your tunic and look down at your feet. Corn husks everywhere. You've only just begun the menu. Your sandals squish as you step off the last of the corn rows, already feeling the tortilla haze settle over your brain. But there's no time to drift into a nap just yet. A young woman waves you over from the next chinampa. Her arms are full of thick green vines, and she's smiling like she knows a secret. You jog over, and she thrusts a plump, bean-filled pod into your hands. Frijoles, she says, grinning. Better than your corn. You pop open the pod and reveal smooth, black beans nestled inside like polished stones. You try one raw. It's bitter and starchy, but she laughs and points to a clay pot simmering nearby. Smoke curls from under the lid. It smells rich, smoky, and warm, like comfort food had a baby with a campfire. Beans were the quiet giants of Aztec agriculture. Where corn got all the flashy praise, beans did the daily work. They fixed nitrogen in the soil, made other crops grow better, and kept people from dropping dead of protein deficiency. You sit by the fire as she ladles you a small bowl of seasoned beans topped with a crumble of salty cheese and a sprig of epazote. Your first true Aztec bean snack. One spoon in and your taste buds start doing a slow dance. Earthy, spicy, a little tangy. Even better? The beans were cooked with avocado leaf, adding a subtle anise flavor. You ask if that's normal? She shrugs. Normal, magical, depends on the day. You've got to love a cuisine where the line between snack and spell is blurred. Mainstream fact time: beans, particularly black, pinto, and ayacote, were the second core pillar of the Aztec food pyramid, right beside corn. Together, they created a complete protein. You could live off just those two, especially if you added squash. And spoiler alert, you will be adding squash. But not yet. For now, it's all about the humble bean. Dried beans were traded, stored, and rehydrated with care. Some were mashed into cakes, others blended with chili paste and wrapped in corn husks for portable trail snacks. Bean tamales? Yes. Bean cookies? Also yes. Historians still argue whether the Aztecs had something like savory bean candy, small, chili-sweetened dollops dried in the sun and eaten during market festivals. Some say it's a myth. Others swear their grandma made them last week. Your guide offers you a second helping, this time, a grilled tlacoyo. It's a thick, oval-shaped masa cake stuffed with mashed beans and fried on a flat stone until crispy on the outside, tender on the inside. It crunches when you bite it, and the center is creamy, smoky, and just a little spicy. She grins. Told you. Better than corn. You raise an eyebrow but nod in agreement. The crunch alone makes you wonder if you've been living wrong. A boy nearby is carrying a basket of mottled red beans, ayacote. These are the flashy ones. Huge, meaty, almost chestnut-sized. He tells you they're cooked low and slow for hours, sometimes buried in embers underground, and served during feasts or after long ceremonial dances. Dancers eat first, he says solemnly, then drops one into your palm like it's a jewel. You nibble it. Creamy. Almost buttery. Snack royalty. Now for the quirky bit. There was a bean god. Sort of. In some texts, beans are associated with Xolotl, the god of lightning, death, and transformation. Kind of a weird resume, but hey, maybe he just liked fiber. Some farmers would whisper prayers to him before planting beans, especially when the rainy season looked shaky. And bean vines? They were believed to trap spirits, which is why no one planted them near temples. You look around nervously. No temples here, right? You help pull pods from the vines, careful not to snap the tender stems. Each chinampa has its own rhythm, and this one is clearly in full bean mode. The farmers rotate rows with corn and squash, letting each plant support the others. You'd call it organic farming, but here it's just common sense. Your fingers start to prune from the dew, but you keep picking. The air smells of earth, wood smoke, and the faint sting of chili curry from a pot bubbling farther down the field. A woman walks by with a basket full of bright green fava beans, less common, but still prized. These were often cooked with squash flowers or made into thick stews eaten by temple dancers after long ceremonies. Here's a bit of local debate. Some believe the Aztecs also fermented beans into a paste that was mixed with cacao, chili, and honey, like a spicy, earthy chocolate hummus. Sounds wild, tastes wild. You're handed a blob on a leaf. It's surprisingly good. Funky. Sweet. A little like trail mix and salsa had a baby. You take a moment to sit by the canal's edge, the bean buzz warming your belly. A canoe drifts by carrying woven sacks, some filled with dried beans, others with roasted, salted ones. Portable snacks for traders, warriors, or teenagers with late-night cravings. You toss a few roasted beans in your mouth. Crunchy. Salty. Better than popcorn. And almost definitely more nutritious than whatever's hiding in your kitchen drawer right now. Across the canal, someone's singing a bean song. No, really. The rhythm matches the planting motions: poke, drop, cover, step. 3 sisters in one hole. They chant, referring to the classic trio: corn, beans, squash. But you know who's doing the heavy lifting in that trio today. The sky begins to glow orange. Another day nearly done. You stand and stretch, your fingers stained from husks and dirt. Another bean tamal is passed your way, this one spiced with crushed pumpkin seeds and a hint of honey. You take a bite and sigh. The best snacks aren't loud. They're patient. Like beans. You're still licking bean paste off your fingers when a vine slaps you in the ankle, gently, but firmly. It curls across the chinampa like it owns the place, leaves sprawling, tendrils climbing every stalk and tree. You follow the vine's trail until it leads you to something bulbous and striped nestled between 2 cornstalks. Calabaza, says a farmer nearby, tapping it proudly. Squash. But wait till you see the flowers. You crouch and cradle the fruit. It's warm from the sun, dappled with yellow and green like a lazy tiger. But the real story today isn't the squash itself, it's the blossoms. Bright orange, delicate as tissue paper, and blooming like nature's edible confetti. You pluck one, careful not to crush it. Someone's already frying a batch. Now, you've had fried things before. Onion rings. Funnel cakes. Deep-fried butter if you've been to a certain kind of state fair. But this? This is next level. The blossom is stuffed with mashed squash and herbs, then dipped in a light batter made from amaranth flour and fried on a clay comb. The result is crispy, floral, slightly sweet, and very snackable. You take a bite and immediately want 6 more. Here's your mainstream moment. Squash was one of the earliest domesticated plants in Mesoamerica, even predating corn in some areas. The Aztecs grew many varieties, from long-necked gourds to sweet, thick-skinned pumpkins. Squash wasn't just food, it was tool, vessel, decoration. Hollowed gourds served as ladles and bowls. Dried skins became storage containers. The seeds? Roasted and eaten like trail mix. And yes, they made snacks from it. Lots of them. One of your guides is carving a gourd into a cup for cacao. Another's boiling squash chunks with honey and chili to make a sticky, spicy candy. You get a sample. It's chewy, fiery, and way better than any fruit roll-up you've ever had. Historians still argue whether this sticky snack was reserved for children, ritual offerings, or both. You decide it was probably whichever came first, birthday or sacrifice. As you explore deeper into the squash patch, you notice how every plant is doing something different. Some are sprawling wildly. Others grow in neat rows, held in place with reeds and sticks. It's not chaos, it's personality. Each squash vine has its own vibe. You meet one farmer who swears she talks to hers. They grow better when you sing, she insists. You don't question it. A few boys run by with palm leaf bowls full of pepitas, squash seeds toasted with lime and chili powder. You grab a handful. Crunchy, salty, with a citrusy zing that makes your mouth pucker just enough. Perfect trail snacks. You imagine Aztec messengers tossing these back while running full speed between cities, sandals slapping against stone roads. Here's your quirky bit. In some regions, people believed squash plants had a guardian spirit. Farmers would tie little charms or feathers to the vines, especially the ones bearing lots of fruit, to keep away jealous neighbors or, get this, hungry ghosts. You glance around. No ghosts today. Just a very curious iguana eyeing your pepitas. The squash blossoms are everywhere now, some tucked into tortillas with beans, others floating in a soup scented with epazote and garlic. You try both. The soup is light but layered, like it's whispering flavors instead of shouting them. The blossom taco, on the other hand, is bolder, smoky, bright, and kissed with chili oil. As you help harvest a few squash, someone offers you another delicacy, candied gourd. It looks like a chunk of amber, glistening and sticky. You bite in. The texture is soft and fudgy, like a cross between roasted yam and toffee. It was cooked slowly in honey water and left to dry in the sun until it developed that magical chew. No sugarcane here. This is agave honey, sometimes maguey sap, occasionally mixed with fruit pulp for color. Imagine dessert by way of the sun god. This brings up an ongoing scholarly debate. Some researchers argue that these sweetened snacks were seasonal and closely tied to festivals honoring deities like Chikumkotl, the goddess of agriculture. Others believe they were more common, enjoyed by families on lazy afternoons beside the canals. Maybe both. Maybe snack time was sacred. A woman hands you a final dish to try, squash puree blended with black beans and wrapped in a banana leaf, steamed and served with ground pumpkin seeds and chili dust. You inhale it. It's earthy, rich, and somehow nostalgic for a past you never lived through. The flavors layer like a lullaby, comfort, warmth, and a gentle sting. You sit with the squash team as the sun starts its downward crawl, listening to them trade planting tricks and cooking hacks. One farmer swears by singing to the blossoms. Another insists his flavor depends on which phase the moon is in when he harvests. It sounds superstitious, but you know better now. Aztec agriculture isn't just science. It's poetry, myth, and trial by snack. You lean back, full of gourd, bean, and blossom, watching the wind move through the corn. Somewhere behind you, the chili peppers await. And you've been warned, they do not play nice. You burp, quietly, respectfully, because the squash has settled in your stomach like a warm cat. But that cozy glow vanishes the moment you step onto the next chinampa and take a deep, involuntary sniff. The air hits you like a slap, fiery, acidic, a sharp tickle that races straight up your nose and pings around your sinuses like a rogue bee. You cough. Your eyes water. Your guide grins wickedly. Welcome to the chili beds. This, you're told, is the domain of heat and flavor. The Aztecs didn't just grow chili peppers, they practically built a religion around them. They cultivated dozens of varieties across a rainbow of shapes and colors, each with its own level of fire and its own culinary purpose. Right now, you're looking at a glossy red chilhuacal, a smoky black pasilla, and a nearly neon orange chiltepin the size of a pebble but apparently hot enough to make you cry in 4 languages. You reach for one, your guide slaps your hand away. No raw. Unless you're proving something. You are not proving anything today. Mainstream historians agree, chili peppers were foundational to Aztec cuisine. Nearly every dish, snack, feast, or funeral spread, got the chili treatment. The heat wasn't just for flavor, it helped preserve food, added excitement to humble meals, and even acted as a kind of medicine. Got a cold? Chili. Trouble sleeping? Chili. Annoying neighbor? Blow chili smoke into their window. No, really. There are records suggesting chili smoke was used in disciplinary ceremonies for misbehaving children. Imagine being grounded and pepper-gassed. Parenting was different back then. You crouch by a row of vibrant pecan peppers and help a woman clip them off the stems. Her fingers move fast, practiced. She warns you not to touch your face. Good advice. You try not to even think about touching your face. She invites you to try a snack, roasted green chiles stuffed with mashed beans, squash, and toasted amaranth. The pepper is blistered on the outside, smoky and tender. You bite in carefully. First flavor. Then heat. Then panic. It's not unbearable, but it builds, like someone gradually turning up the stove under your tongue. You blink back a tear. She nods approvingly. You're still alive? Good. Here's your quirky chili fact. Some Aztecs believed peppers had souls. Specific ones were linked to gods, and certain red chilies were only eaten during rituals honoring warriors. There were even chili amulets, tiny dried peppers strung around the neck for luck or fertility. Historians still argue whether these amulets were literal protection, fashion statements, or maybe spicy inside jokes. As you walk deeper into the chili field, the variety becomes dizzying. Long, thin guajillos used in tamales. Fat, wrinkled ancho peppers perfect for mole. Tiny chiltepins that were fermented in pulque, a kind of agave wine, and drunk before battle or weddings, or both, if your weekend plans were ambitious. A boy brings you a bowl of tlalquili, a chunky chili sauce made with ground seeds, herbs, and roasted peppers. It's served with fresh tortillas rolled like scrolls. You dip. You chew. You understand everything and nothing all at once. The flavor is deep, smoky, nutty, with a slow burn that feels intelligent. Like it knows what it's doing. Not just heat for heat's sake. This is thoughtful heat. A woman nearby is preparing chilmol, a paste of dried peppers ground with cacao, pumpkin seeds, and bitter herbs. It's stirred into stews or used to coat grilled fish, and sometimes rolled into tiny balls for travel snacks, like ancient meatless jerky with a fireball core. You try one. You now know what the inside of a volcano tastes like. You chase it with a cool maize drink flavored with mint and a hint of honey. You make a small, involuntary sound of relief. A passing farmer pats your back. You've been baptized now, he says. Later, as the sun lowers behind the reeds, you help roast a batch of chilies over an open fire. The smell is intoxicating: smoke, citrus, pepper, and something faintly sweet. Roasting softens them, brings out flavors beneath the fire. You wrap one in a tortilla with mashed avocado and beans, a little lime juice dripped from a calabash spoon. Snack perfection. You sit down near the edge of the field, still savoring that smoky bite. A teenage girl hands you a pouch made of corn husk tied with fiber cord. Inside are dried chili strips dusted with crushed herbs and salt. Trail spice, she explains. Chew it when you walk or when you're bored. Or if you're trying to look brave. You chew one. Salty. Hot. A little bitter. You nod solemnly. One farmer walks by holding a strange, squat pepper wrapped in a cotton cloth. He unwraps it like a treasure. This one, he says, was grown under the full moon and watered with collected dew. Is that real? No idea. But he insists it makes a better chili paste for newborn blessing ceremonies. You believe him because who would make that up? Here's something to debate at your next dinner party. Some chili varieties were so sacred they weren't allowed to be sold in markets. Only gifted, bartered, or offered. Historians still argue whether this was economic control or spiritual reverence. Either way, you wouldn't want to be caught haggling over moon chili in the wrong neighborhood. By now, the sun has fully dipped below the horizon. You're warm all over, whether from the peppers or the fire or the half-dozen chili-based snacks you've just survived. Someone's lighting a torch. A man in the distance is grinding more dried chilies on a stone metate, the sound rhythmic, calming, even with the knowledge that he's preparing the next round of edible lava. You curl up by the canal, lips tingling, stomach buzzing, fingers stained red and orange from the oils. You're full, not just of food, but of stories, of heat, of weird pride for having made it through the chili gauntlet. Tomorrow, tomatoes. And you hear those have some baggage. Your lips are still tingling when morning light streaks across the canal, painting everything in gold and hush. A heron glides low over the water, and a soft splash reminds you that nature's breakfast bell doesn't wait for you to finish yawning. You stretch, stomach rumbling, and follow the scent of something sweet? Tangy? Tomatoey? Ah, yes. Today it's the red, round rebel of the Aztec garden, the tomato. A woman welcomes you onto her chinampa with a small clay bowl in her hands. Inside, have tomatoes, glistening in the sun, sprinkled with crushed chili, herbs, and a squeeze of lime. You pop one in your mouth and your taste buds do a synchronized backflip. Juicy, sharp, a little heat trailing behind. Your eyes widen. She nods. Snack. Starter snack. Tomatoes may seem everyday now, but here in the pre-Columbian world, they were treasured, and maybe a little suspicious. The Aztecs called them zaitamata, roughly. Plump thing with navel. And they cultivated several types. Tiny wild varieties that burst with flavor, thicker-skinned ones used in sauces, and sprawling yellow ones said to be good for the stomach, or possibly the soul. Mainstream historians agree that tomatoes originated in Mesoamerica and were well established in Aztec gardens long before the Spanish ever dreamt of pizza sauce. But here's the twist. Once Europeans took tomatoes back home, people there were terrified of them. Spanish priests called them sinful. The French thought they were poisonous. One nobleman reportedly ate a tomato in public just to prove it wouldn't kill him. He survived, but the crowd almost didn't. Back on the Chinampa, you help pick through vines heavy with fruit. Some are bright red, others golden orange, and a few a dusky purple-black that look almost forbidden. You hold one up and ask if it's edible. A farmer shrugs. Maybe not raw. Unless you're feeling brave. A nearby cook hands you a toasted tortilla smeared with smashed tomato, garlic, and epazote. Simple. Explosive. It's the Aztec answer to bruschetta, if bruschetta had a chili kick and was likely eaten on a canoe. Quirky snack moment, you're offered a tomato drink. Not a soup, not a sauce, but a spiced, room-temperature tomato and fruit puree served in a gourd. It's somewhere between gazpacho and smoothie, with a pinch of ground seeds and crushed flowers. You sip. It's sad, bright, refreshing. Kinda like drinking salsa, but gentler. You go back for seconds. A young boy crushes dried tomatoes with pumpkin seeds and a bit of salt to make a portable paste. This is survival food, they tell you, good for warriors, messengers, and anyone too impatient to wait for stew. It's pressed into small cakes, wrapped in leaves, and stored in satchels. You try one. Chewy, savory, oddly addictive. Like a fruit roll-up crossed with jerky, minus the weird preservatives. Nearby, a girl is helping her grandmother roast tomatoes on hot stones, turning them until their skins blister and blacken. The aroma hits you like a warm hug, smoke, sweetness, and umami all curling together. They mash the roasted tomatoes with wild onions and chilies into a thick salsa and fold it into corn dough for tamales. You get a sample. It is, in a word, divine. The balance of fire-roasted tomato and soft corn is so perfect you close your eyes and chew slowly, like you're memorizing it for a future where this snack might not exist. Historians still argue whether tomatoes were treated as main food or condiment. Were they centerpieces or supporting actors? The answer, as always with Aztec food, both. Some tomato varieties were only used in sauces and offerings. Others were paired with beans, squash, or even cactus to make light meals or lazy day snacks, things to eat while watching the sun go down, or perhaps watching your neighbors argue over who had the spiciest salsa. Speaking of which, there's a competition brewing on this Chinampa. 3 families. 3 salsas. All tomato-based. One with charred chili and cacao. One with raw green tomatoes, herbs, and avocado leaf. One, they warn you, will make your ancestors sweat. You volunteer as snack tribute. First salsa, smooth, smoky, with a chocolatey depth that hits the back of your throat like a lullaby. Second, tangy green, fresh like a garden slapped you awake. You want this bottled and carried in your bag forever. Third, pain. Delicious, holy pain. You don't cry, but your ears ring a little. Everyone applauds. As you recover, a farmer hands you a pouch of dried cherry tomatoes coated in ground amaranth and salt. Trail snacks again. You chew thoughtfully. Sweet, salty, chewy, like sun-dried memories of 1,000 meals. One woman confides a belief passed from her grandmother. Some tomatoes could remember the hands that grew them. It's poetic nonsense, probably. But when you bite into one of her garden's brightest fruits, there's something in the taste, like care, like laughter, like all the sunrises she must have stood watching over these vines. A scholarly aside to chew on, some linguists think the Aztec word for tomato, xitamal, might link to symbolic meanings beyond plump navel fruit. Some argue it had associations with fertility, dreams, or even sacrifice. Were tomatoes spiritual? Sensual? Just delicious? No one agrees. But when you sit under a tomato vine, its leaves brushing your cheek, and nibble a fire-roasted slice with lime and salt, you start to understand how one fruit could carry so many meanings. You wipe juice from your chin. Another farmer waves you over to a basket full of green tomatoes, used for sour sauces, you're told, or sliced thin and salted as a snack on hot days. You try one. It puckers your lips in the best way. As twilight comes again, you help gather fallen tomatoes, sort them into snack now and snack later piles, and feel the rhythm of another day. Your arms are stained with juice. Your fingers smell like garlic, lime, and leaf. You lie back against the vine-laced post and sigh. Tomorrow's all about amaranth, and someone whispers it pops. The sound hits your ears first, pop, 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 FFFSSHH, like a tiny fireworks display echoing off the chinampas. You sit up groggily, rub the tomato pulp from your cheek, and turn toward the source. There, in a shallow clay pan over a gentle fire, amaranth seeds are popping like giddy little kernels. A woman stirs them with a flat wooden paddle, humming softly, her apron dusted with tiny golden grains. She catches your eye, scoops a small handful into a palm leaf, and hands it over. "Eat," she says. "It's the breakfast of warriors." You toss a few into your mouth. They're crunchy, nutty, with a hint of toastiness. There's something almost popcorn adjacent about it, but lighter, more delicate. It doesn't explode in your mouth, it flutters, dissolving like roasted fog. This is amaranth, called Whatley by the Aztecs, a grain so mighty and mysterious that it fed generations, starred in rituals, and later got itself banned by the Spanish for being too holy. Yep. You're snacking on a troublemaker. Mainstream historians place amaranth right up there with maize and beans in terms of importance. It's a pseudo-cereal, gluten-free, packed with protein, and stupidly nutritious. But what sets it apart is how deeply it was woven into Aztec ceremonies. Popcorn? Fun. Amaranth? Sacred. The woman cooking next to you explains how it's harvested. Delicate work. The plants grow waist-high with thick green stalks and jewel-toned flowers. The seeds, tiny and cream-colored, are shaken loose after drying and then roasted, popped, or ground into flour. "We don't waste one," she tells you, scooping the freshly popped seeds into a wide bowl. She stirs in honey, thick, golden, possibly agave-based, and begins shaping the mixture into spheres. "For the children. Or the tired. Or the sad." You take one. It's warm, chewy, just sweet enough. Like a cross between granola and cotton candy made by a very thoughtful god. And here comes your quirky fact. During certain festivals, Aztec priests and worshippers would mold popped amaranth with blood or honey into figurines of gods. These statues were paraded through the city, worshipped, then broken up and eaten like spiritual candy bars. A whole ritual made of snacks. And yes, it freaked the Spanish out hard. They eventually banned amaranth for its close ties to indigenous religion. It wasn't just food, it was resistance in edible form. You helped shape more amaranth balls, watching the paste stiffen as it cools. Nearby, children dart back and forth, stealing warm handfuls and giggling like they've never done anything wrong in their lives. A boy offers you a bite of his, then scolds you gently for taking too big a bite. "It's not popcorn," he says seriously. "It's Whatley." You're told it can be made into flour and used for cakes, griddle breads, and ceremonial flatbreads. Some cooks mix it with pumpkin seed paste and spices to form crunchy snack bars wrapped in maize husks. Aztec energy bars, if you will. You chew one now, your mouth humming with cinnamon, chili, and faint honey. You wander over to another corner of the chinampa where a woman is simmering amaranth greens. Yep, the leaves are edible too. She adds them to a stew with tomatoes and beans, explaining how this dish was eaten during specific moon cycles or before long journeys. You sip a spoonful. It's light, grassy, and filling in that slow, quiet way. Scholars still argue whether amaranth was more important than corn in certain communities. Some say it fueled the elite, warriors, priests, scribes. Others claim it was a humble staple, too controversial for the colonizers but too beloved to be forgotten. You decide it was both. After all, here you are, centuries later, popping seeds into your mouth like you belong. A man begins to sing a low chant, rhythmic and melodic. He's pounding amaranth seeds with a stone pestle, mixing in dried chili and cacao. The paste is rolled thin, cut into triangles, and dried under the sun. You try one, crunchy, savory, with a bitter edge that surprises you. Not every snack has to coddle you. Later, a snack you didn't expect, fermented amaranth drink. Tangy, effervescent, lightly spiced. It tickles your tongue and leaves a whisper of sweetness in your throat. Good for warriors, someone says. And long nights. You take a second sip. You're not a warrior, but you've been eating like one. Here's a strange one. A woman shows you a pouch of blackened amaranth seeds, charred until they look like pepper flakes. These were mixed with clay and burned herbs, pressed into charms said to protect travelers from snake bites. Not for eating, unless you like snacks with side effects. You sit under a tree now, belly full of crunchy, toasty joy. The sun is high, the lake breeze cool. You close your eyes and imagine a city like Tenochtitlan, massive, buzzing, fragrant with the scent of hot stone and fresh masa. Somewhere in that crowd, someone's snacking on the same little grain you just inhaled by the handful. A child offers you one more ball of amaranth and honey, this one flecked with toasted pumpkin seeds. This one has dreams inside, she says, completely serious. You bite it. For a moment you believe her. Tomorrow avocados. Green gold. Soft treasure. Snack royalty. The world is quiet when you wake, swaddled in the whisper of reeds and the distant sound of something being mashed. Not cracked, not chopped, mashed. A steady, rhythmic squish thump that pulls you upright with the promise of something soft, rich, and undeniably snackable. You follow the sound to a shaded spot beneath a tree where a small group is gathered around a giant molkajit, the classic volcanic stone mortar. Inside it, a velvety green mixture glistening in the morning sun. Your eyes widen. Your snack senses tingle. Avocado. A woman sees your face and nods with the grace of someone who's mashed hundreds of fruits and broken at least 2 molcajetes doing it. She offers a taste. You dip a tortilla triangle in, lift it to your mouth, and pause, just long enough to appreciate the perfect balance of scent, creamy fat, sharp lime, a whisper of chili. Then you bite. The texture is everything. Smooth, but not bland. Rich, but not heavy. The flavor wraps around your tongue and settles into the corners of your mouth like it plans to live there. You close your eyes and lean back. Snack royalty has arrived. Avocados, a huacal to the Aztecs, were more than just food. They were status. Symbols. Possibly scandalous. Linguists still giggle that the Nahuatl word ahuacatl also meant testicle, and historians still argue whether this was anatomical, spiritual, or both. Either way, let's just say the Aztecs were very aware of the fruit's suggestive shape. You wander the Chinampa, ducking under broadleaf branches as avocados dangle like treasure from every other tree. Some are as small as limes. Others big enough to knock out a jaguar if properly thrown. You gently press one, it gives just a little. Perfect. Mainstream fact, the Aztecs prized avocados for their nutritional richness. Packed with fat, rare in a plant-based diet, they were ideal for energy on long marches, strength for warriors, and fuel for thinkers and priests. In a world without cheese or butter, this was the closest thing to edible luxury. A young boy splits one open for you. The pit is massive, almost cartoonish, but the flesh inside is bright green, silky. He hands you a clay spoon and a smile. You dig in. No salt. No chili. Just avocado. Pure, raw, unapologetic. It doesn't need anything. But that doesn't mean the Aztecs didn't do anything with it. A nearby cook is mashing avocados with roasted tomato, lime juice, green onions, and epazote into something very close to modern guacamole. Only better. Because it's not designed for chips, it's meant to sit inside warm corn cakes, top spicy stews, or stand alone with a handful of toasted amaranth sprinkled on top. You sample a dollop on a crispy tortilla. It's hot from the griddle, blistered just right, and the moment the avocado hits your tongue, everything slows. You might not go back to modern snacks. Ever. Here's a quirky tidbit. Some nobles believed avocado pits had prophetic power. Cracked open and boiled in herbal mixes, they were said to reveal omens in the bubbles or scents. Others used ground pit powder in medicinal drinks, usually with pulque or cacao. You poke a pit suspiciously. Just a snack today, thanks. In a shady corner, a woman peels long strips of avocado skin and dries them in the sun. Tea, she says. Bitter, cleansing, useful for stomachaches or heartbreaks. You're not sure if she's serious, but she hands you a piece. You nibble. It tastes like bark wearing a green dress. You make a face. She nods approvingly. Later, you watch a farmer graft young avocado trees with older ones, shaping the future of buttery snacks to come. He whispers to them as he ties the stems with fiber. Grow sweet. Grow soft. Grow for my grandchildren. You feel a lump in your throat. Blame the avocado. Nearby, a group is roasting squash and beans in avocado leaves, wrapping the mixture like tiny presents and placing them in a pit oven. You get a sample hours later. The flavor is smoky, earthy, with the avocado leaf adding a hint of anise. It's the kind of snack you never knew you needed. You sit beside an older woman who's slicing avocado and laying the pieces out on a stone slab to dry. She tells you they'll be ground into paste and mixed with chili for a long-lasting spread. You ask how long it lasts? She chuckles. Only as long as it stays hidden. And here's the scholarly debate of the day. Some argue that avocado was a sacred fruit used in fertility rites and love spells, while others think that's modern romanticism projected backward. But then, you see a young couple share a perfectly ripe avocado between bites of roasted corn and soft tamal, and you know, this fruit means something more. As the sun dips behind the trees, someone hands you a chilled avocado drink, blended with water, herbs, and a tiny splash of fermented agave nectar. It's smooth and refreshing, and tastes like someone bottled a sigh. You wipe your hands, now glossy with green, and realize your snack journey today has been less about crunch and more about comfort. Avocados don't dazzle, they envelop. They don't shout, they hum. You settle into the edge of the chinampa, the branches above heavy with green gold. Tomorrow, you're told, you'll be eating cactus. Thorns and all. You shudder slightly. Then finish your last bite of avocado with reverence. You wake to a light snick sound, slow, deliberate, repeated. Someone's cutting something. You sit up, stretch your arms, and glance across the canal. And then you see it, a row of tall, wide-armed cactus pads rising like green shields in the morning haze. The gardeners are already at work, slicing the pads from their stalks with stone knives, flicking thorns off with a practiced motion that makes your skin crawl just watching. Breakfast? Someone asks behind you, grinning as they wave a freshly sliced cactus pad still dripping sap. You're in nopal country now. The nopal, a type of prickly pear cactus, was a staple of the Aztec diet. It's a snack, a side dish, a hangover cure, a symbol of the nation, and depending on who you ask, probably some kind of spiritual Wi-Fi antenna. You step carefully toward the beds, still eyeing those thorns like they've got a personal vendetta against you. The pad in your hand is slick, glossy, and somehow alive. A woman takes it gently, scrapes off the remaining spines with a sharpened obsidian chip, and lays it on a hot comel. You expect it to just sit there. But it sizzles. Pops. Releases a faint steam that smells like lemon and rain. You'll like it, she promises. It bites back a little. She folds the grilled pad into a tortilla with crumbled white cheese and roasted chili. You bite in. There's crunch. There's chew. There's tang and just the tiniest hint of slime, but not in a bad way. More like a reminder that this plant was built to hold water through 1,000 dry seasons. It tastes green. Alive. You suddenly feel like you've just eaten a piece of the landscape. Mainstream historians agree that nopales were more than just a food, they were survival. Cactus pads could be grilled, boiled, roasted, or eaten raw in a pinch. They were rich in fiber, loaded with nutrients, and the mucilage, the fancy word for the gooey inside, was believed to have healing properties. One elder tells you the sap is still used to treat cuts, burns, even stomach problems. If it stings you on the way in, it soothes you on the way out, he says, eyes twinkling. You elect not to ask too many follow-up questions. You help harvest more pads, watching the way the knife schemes under each joint. It's rhythmic. Peaceful. Except for the moment you forget and grab a freshly cut nopal with your bare hand. One tiny spine lodges into your thumb like a cactus toothpick. You yelp. Everyone around you nods with satisfaction. Now you're part of the plant, someone jokes. A girl offers you a snack, raw nopal salad with tomato, onion, lime, and crushed chili. The pads have been diced into little cubes and mixed until the goo disappears, replaced by a slick, zesty crunch. It's oddly addictive. Like salsa with a memory of the desert. Here's your quirky tidbit. Some Aztec healers believed that nopales grew best when sung to, especially under a waxing moon. Others claimed that a single nopal, blessed during a solar eclipse, could cure heartbreak. You look over at one particularly round, vigorous cactus and wonder if someone's still whispering to it at night. The snack train doesn't stop. Next up? Pickled nopal. Sliced into thin strips and soaked in brine with oregano, garlic, and chilies. The tang hits your teeth like a mariachi trumpet. Bright, spicy, wake-up juice in plant form. You love it instantly. Then someone brings out tamales filled with sautéed cactus and black beans. The masa is soft, the nopal tender, the flavor a delicate dance between grassy and savory. You take 3 more. Now for a fun open debate. Scholars can't decide whether the tuna, the fruit of the nopal, was eaten more as a sweet snack or used mostly for dye and fermentation. Some accounts suggest tunas were fermented into pulpy, semi-alcoholic drinks for festivals or funerals. Others swear the bright red ones were crushed into body paint and temple offerings. You finally get to taste one. The fruit is sliced in half, revealing a bright magenta flesh speckled with black seeds. You dig in with a clay spoon and get a mouthful of juicy sweetness, somewhere between watermelon, fig, and summer thunderstorm. The seeds are crunchy but harmless. You eat them anyway. All part of the snack. A boy passes by with a tortilla smeared in tuna jam, yes, jam. Boiled down with honey and lime until it thickens into a deep crimson paste. You lick your fingers. It's absurd how good this is. Someone else has brought dried cactus strips, seasoned with chili powder and salt. They're chewy tangy, like cactus jerky. You chew slowly, feeling like you're gnawing on a piece of the earth's patience. There's a legend shared around the fire as the day winds down, that the Mexica people found their capital, Tenochtitlan, on the spot where they saw an eagle eating a snake atop a cactus. It's now the symbol on Mexico's flag, but back then, it was a divine sign. Not from a scroll. Not from a prophet. From a plant. You look again at the nopales, arms wide, green and thick, holding the weight of fruit and sun and stories. You're not just snacking on cactus today. You're part of something ancient. Resilient. Sharp when it needs to be. Nourishing when you let it. As you settle by the canal, someone passes you a final treat, a fried nopal flower. Delicate, battered in amaranth flour, and filled with soft avocado. You eat it in 2 bites, and it tastes like everything you've learned, wrapped in one snack. Tomorrow, they say, you'll eat the petals. You wake up blinking into the golden light, and something smells floral. Not perfumey, but edible. Like a garden decided to flirt with your breakfast. You sit up and see someone delicately placing pink and purple petals into a shallow stone bowl. They aren't tossing them aside. They're building something. A dish. A drink. A dream. Today, your host says, we eat the flowers. And not just the squash blossoms from earlier, though they make a reappearance. This Chinampa specializes in edible blooms, nature's most impractical-looking snacks. You follow your guide into a field that looks more like a painting than a farm. Rows of marigolds, dahlias, bougainvillea, and little white blossoms that buzz with bees. You're told not to pick anything without asking. The flowers, apparently, have rules. First up, the marigold. The Sempasakil. Bright orange, delicate, and fiercely sacred. Known as the flower of the dead, It's used in offerings during Dia de los Muertos now, but the Aztecs were already using it in rituals centuries earlier. Some blossoms were dried and added to stews for color. Others were steeped into drinks said to chase away bad dreams. You're handed a cup of just such a drink, lightly infused water with crushed marigold petals, lime, and a touch of honey. You sip. It's subtle, like citrus wearing a flower crown. You swear you feel calmer already. Or maybe just sleepy. Or maybe that's the cumulative weight of 10 days of non-stop snacking. Mainstream historians recognize that flowers weren't just decorations in the Aztec world. They were used for medicine, ceremony, and yes, even flavor. Certain petals had cooling properties. Others were used as natural dyes. Some, like hibiscus, flor de Jamaica, were steeped into tangy, bright red teas that could wake the dead or, at the very least, refresh a tired Chinampa gardener. Someone hands you a hibiscus drink chilled in a carved gourd. It's tart, almost sour, with a berry-like kick that stings your cheeks. Perfect. You ask for another. You're told this was also a fasting drink, something light enough to not count as food during temple observances, but strong enough to keep you from passing out during sunrise prayers. Then there's the yucca flower. Big, creamy white petals that look like they belong at a wedding and not in a pan. But here they are, sautéed with garlic and epazote, folded into a corn tortilla with a dollop of soft bean paste. You bite in. The petals are surprisingly meaty, with a snap like green beans and a gentle bitterness that balances the beans beautifully. It's not sweet. It's not salty. It's floral savory, and your taste buds weren't ready. Quirky fact: some Aztecs believed certain flowers could bring dreams, or even messages from the gods. There were petal blends that people slept with under their pillows, hoping for visions. Others would eat a few blossoms before long journeys, hoping for luck or divine protection. Historians still argue whether these effects were real, ritual, or placebo with a side of pollen. You help pick a few dahlia petals next. Dahlias, native to Mexico, were eaten raw, added to salads, or boiled into teas. The petals are peppery, slightly sweet, with a texture between lettuce and silk. A woman shows you how she folds them into maize cakes with a drizzle of maguey sap. You take a bite. It tastes like spring meta-tamal, and they decided to be friends. Off to the side, someone's grinding dried bougainvillea flowers into a pinkish powder. Natural color for sweets, she explains. Sometimes for body paint. Sometimes for cookies. You get a cookie. It's soft, sweetened with honey, and has a strange, floral aftertaste that feels like eating perfume in the best possible way. Nearby, children are gathering little trumpet-shaped flowers and stuffing them with chili-spiced amaranth paste. You laugh when they offer one. It looks like an hors d'oeuvre from a fairy tale banquet. But you eat it anyway. The crunch of the filling contrasts with the soft snap of the flower. Sweet, spicy, delicate, gone in a second. A woman ties a garland of mixed blossoms and hangs it near the edge of the canal. Not for eating, she says. This one is for the water spirits. You ask what happens if you do eat one of those. She shrugs. Maybe nothing. Maybe you dream of frogs for a week. A scholarly aside, there's still debate over whether the Aztecs had coded floral language. Some suggest that flower choice in snacks or offerings could signal emotions, intentions, or social status. Like if someone gave you hibiscus tea, it meant respect. If they gave you fried yucca, it meant trust. If they gave you nothing? Well, that was the loudest snack of all. Your hands smell like blossoms now. Your lips are sticky with petal honey. You pause to nibble on a rose-flavored tamal that's been steamed in flower-scented water. It's subtle. Dreamy. You're not even sure it qualifies as a snack or a poem. The sky begins to shift toward gold again. You help light a few torches along the Chinampa's edge, their flames dancing gently beside garlands of fresh blooms. Someone hands you one last treat, a dessert made with whipped squash, roasted corn, and crushed petals, shaped into a tiny boat and floated on the water before being eaten. A snack and an offering. 2 for 1. You lean back, flower-dazed and full, the taste of marigold still lingering on your tongue. It's been a day of softness, subtlety, and the slow, sneaky power of beauty. Tomorrow, the snacks get weird. You're headed for Lake Slime. The next morning, the flowers are gone, and so is any illusion that snacks must always be sweet or leafy or even recognizable as food. The Chinampa you drift toward now is surrounded by thick mats of green water, less lily pond, more soup in desperate need of a stir. It smells pondy, fresh and fishy and ancient. You wrinkle your nose. Someone laughs behind you. You smell the tequila. You blink. The what? She grins. Lake Slime. You're gonna eat it. You've come to the domain of Spirulina, a kind of blue-green algae harvested from Lake Texcoco and Lake Xochimilco. To the Aztecs, it wasn't gross pond gunk. It was a protein-packed, vitamin-loaded, straight from the gods' superfood. They called it tequilitl, which literally translates to stone excrement. Cute, right? You're definitely having that with breakfast. Mainstream historians now know it's Spirulina, an organism that thrives in shallow, alkaline lakes. And the Aztecs, always one step ahead, figured out how to scoop it, dry it, press it, and turn it into dense cakes that could last for weeks. No fridges, no salt, just sun and know-how. You kneel beside a wide, shallow pan filled with drying spirulina. It looks like a thick green paste, kind of like someone melted seaweed and mixed it with swamp secrets. A boy with stained fingers smears it into perfect circles and sets them out to dry. They get hard in 2 days, he says. Then you scrape and cook. You try not to make a face. He hands you a cracker made of spirulina, maize flour, and crushed pumpkin seeds. You crunch it. It's earthy, savory, a little salty, and way better than it has any right to be. Like kale chips that worked out all winter and now bench-pressed tamales. Your guide hands you another, this one rolled with mashed beans and chili oil. The heat balances the pondiness, and suddenly, you're reaching for a third. Maybe slime isn't so bad. Here's your quirky tidbit. The Aztecs used spirulina as fuel for warriors. Lightweight, compact, and absurdly nutritious, these green cakes were basically edible armor. There's even evidence that messengers running across the empire's trade routes carried these in little pouches, nibbling like ancient marathoners. You watch as a woman folds spirulina into tamal dough, layering it with roasted squash and crumbled cheese. You help her wrap the bundles in corn husks, and soon the fire is crackling. The scent is surprisingly appealing, smoky, green, with hints of toasted corn. When it's ready, you bite in and realize this is comfort food, if you grew up in a lake. And some did. These Chinampa communities weren't just farmers. They were foragers. They pulled edible weeds, freshwater snails, fish, and yes, algae, from the same water they floated on. No waste. No borders between farming and gathering. Just one endless buffet if you knew where to look, and weren't squeamish. You sip on a spirulina drink, whisked with water, a squeeze of lime, and a hint of honey. It's like drinking a mossy lemonade, but in a weirdly refreshing way. An acquired taste, maybe? You're acquiring it fast. A nearby elder chuckles as he stirs a thick spirulina stew. Good for stomach. Good for mind. Bad for kissing. You laugh and take another bowl anyway. Historians still argue whether tequila was eaten daily by most people or reserved for soldiers and priests. Some records suggest it was common in markets, sold by the handful. Others hint it was something you ate only if you were in training or in need of serious health repair. Either way, it earned its place in the snack pantheon. Later, a group of children show you how they roll spirulina with toasted corn and chili paste into chewy snack balls. Power food, they say, each popping one into their mouth like candy. You join in. Chewy, salty, spicy. If you close your eyes, you'd never guess it was made from lake gunk. Then comes dessert. Sort of. A woman brings out what looks like dark green brittle, studded with roasted seeds and swirls of maguey syrup. You snap off a piece. It's like a spirulina granola bar, but the flavor leans herbal and roasted, with the sweetness coming in waves. You nibble, intrigued. You'd pay good money for this in a modern health food store. Here's a mind twister. Some Aztec scribes believed tequila had spiritual properties. Because it came from the lake, home to deities, spirits, and old magic, it was seen as food of the in-between. Not quite plant, not quite water. A snack from the space between worlds. One myth even tells of a warrior who ate a single spirulina cake before battle and claimed he heard the lake whisper tactics to him. You finish your third cake, quietly listening. The sun is high, the algae dry, and your fingers are stained green. You sit beside a reed bundle, watching the water ripple. Someone tosses a bit of spirulina into the lake, murmuring a short prayer. For the spirits, she says. So they don't take offense. You nod solemnly, then finish your final bite of green gold. It's not glamorous, but it's strong, real, sustaining. The kind of snack that says, you're ready for anything. Which is great, because tomorrow you eat bugs. By now you think you've seen it all: flowers, slime, roasted cactus snacks that bite back. But nothing quite prepares you for the crunch that comes next. It starts with a sound. Scritch, scritch. Then a flutter. Then a quiet pop as something jumps from the hand of a boy crouched near the edge of the chinampa. He grins and holds up his catch. A grasshopper. And not just any grasshopper. A chapulin, toasted and ready to be eaten like a snack ship that once had wings. He tosses it into his mouth like it's a peanut. Then he offers you one. You hesitate. It's whole. Legs. Eyes. That weird little exoskeleton smile. But you're in too deep now. You take it, pop it in, and chew. Crunchy. Earthy. Salty. With a hit of chili lime that explodes across your tongue like a mariachi band on a deadline. It's not bad. In fact, it's weirdly good. Your brain screams, insect! But your taste buds reply, spicy corn nut. You're ushered into the bug zone now, where the Aztecs saw opportunity, not squeamishness. Insects were packed with protein, easy to gather, and highly seasonal. A true snack of the times. Historians agree that critter cuisine wasn't just for survival, it was intentional, respected, even celebratory. A woman walks by with a bowl of Eskimos, ant larvae harvested from deep underground. They look like tiny pearls and are sautéed with chili, garlic, and epazote. She wraps them in a tortilla, hands it over. You take a bite. Creamy. Nutty. A little buttery somehow? Like scrambled eggs if eggs were caught one by someone with serious patience and high pain tolerance. The Aztecs called them insect caviar. You see why. Expensive, delicate, and once only for the elite. Also, it's slightly awkward to admit you love them. Next up? Water bug eggs. Yep. They're called a wattle, laid in neat clumps on lake reeds and gathered during the dry season. Dried and ground into a powder, they're mixed into tamal dough or used to thicken stews. You try a tamal flavored with them. It's savory, rich, with a hint of briny lake in the background. Kind of like if cornbread had been seasoned with the memory of sushi. Here's your quirky moment. Some festival recipes involved shaping mashed wattle into little cakes and painting them with red chili dyed before roasting. These were sometimes used in rituals honoring lake gods. Historians still argue whether these egg cakes were seen as sacred offerings or just fancy appetizers. You decide, both. You kneel beside a group of children chasing grasshoppers through the maize stalks with little woven nets. They laugh and scream and carry their catches to a small clay pan set over coals. You help them toast a batch, shaking the bugs gently as they turn golden brown. Chili powder, lime juice, salt. Stir. Shake. Done. You snack like royalty now. A man walks by eating a skewer of roasted maguey worms, fat, beige, slightly shriveled. He offers one to you with a smirk. You chew carefully. It's rich, chewy, smoky. A little like bacon that was once very squirmy. You're oddly into it. These miaquails were prized for their fat content. The Aztecs fried them, stuffed them into tamales, or ground them into paste. During big feasts or market days, vendors would carry them in baskets lined with cool leaves. One merchant even whispers that warriors carried dried worms as portable protein. Battle jerky. You sample a tortilla slathered with worm paste, layered with black beans and a pickled cactus strip. Crunch, chew, sigh. The textures blend better than you expected. You're told there were even recipes for love, toasted beetle shells stirred into cacao drinks for courage, or crushed bug wings added to dream potions. Scholars raise eyebrows at this. Some call it myth. Others point out that love is often messy and full of protein. As the sun heats the chinampa, the air buzzes, literally. You listen to the hum of crickets, bees, and dragonflies and wonder how many are also on someone's lunch list. You help gather jamiles, small stink bugs prized for their strong, spicy flavor. A woman crushes them with garlic and green tomato, spreading the mix onto a tortilla with a dollop of honey. You bite in. The taste is loud. Sharp, herbal, pungent. Like oregano that went camping too long and came back with stories. Not your favorite, but fascinating. You sit beside a man drying ant larvae in the sun, fanning them occasionally with a reed mat. Every insect has its time, he says. You don't eat worms in cold season. You don't chase grasshoppers in rain. There's a rhythm to this cuisine, a seasonal intelligence that keeps everything in motion. Then comes the final snack of the day, a bundle of mixed insects wrapped in a tortilla, grasshoppers, ants, larvae, all fried crisp and dusted with crushed flowers. You chew slowly. It's crunchy, layered, oddly elegant. Like trail mix curated by a botanist with a sense of humor. You lean back, lips tingling from chili and adventure. Someone hands you a drink, chilled maize and hibiscus, to cool your bug-buzz brain. You sip, close your eyes, and feel the sun on your face. Tomorrow, fruit arrives. Sweetness. Juiciness. A soft landing after the crunch. You're ready. You wake up to a scent you haven't smelled in days, sweetness. Not the syrupy, sticky kind that clings to your fingers, but a soft perfume wafting through the trees like a whispered promise. You blink into the sun-dappled canopy and realize the chinampa you're floating toward is different. No rows of beans, no thickets of chilies, no algae being smeared onto drying mats. Just baskets. Dozens of them. All overflowing with fruit. Today, you feast like a hummingbird. Your host waves from the dock with a smile, holding a knife in one hand and a round, wrinkly black fruit in the other. Sapote, she says. You've never tasted anything like it. She slices it open, revealing soft, dark orange flesh inside, rich and custardy, like nature tried to invent pudding and absolutely nailed it. You take a spoonful. It melts on your tongue. Sweet, earthy, and just a bit spicy. Like a baked pear decided to learn salsa. Fruit was the Aztecs' gentle indulgence. Not just dessert, but medicine, offering, and trade currency. On chinampas you'd find the basics, guavas, zapotes, even avocados, but much of the real action came from beyond, from hills, valleys, jungle edges. Trade routes wound through the empire like juicy veins, delivering tropical bounty right into the heart of Tenochtitlan. Mainstream historians note that the city's markets were packed with fruit vendors. Everything was arranged by type and origin. Want cactus pears? Go 2 stalls left. Craving sour oranges? Look for the guy with the feathered hat. And of course, if you had a few cacao beans to spare, the fruit world was yours. You're handed a slice of mamey, flesh bright orange, almost glowing. It tastes like pumpkin crossed with apricot. It's creamy, warm, grounding. You reach for another. Nearby, someone's slicing open guavas, small, pale yellow, with pink hearts and a floral perfume that makes you weak in the knees. You bite into one, seeds and all, and immediately understand why Aztec nobles supposedly used guava paste as perfume. Sweet, tangy, fragrant. The kind of snack that makes you consider building a shrine. Then there's the star of the trade, cacao. Yes, the holy bean. But right now, you're not drinking it or grinding it or turning it into money. You're biting into the raw fruit. The pod is cracked open and inside are white, slimy-looking seeds wrapped in a soft, sour-sweet pulp. You're skeptical. Someone hands you a seed. You suck. Whoa. Tangy, almost citrusy, with a tropical kick that zaps your brain awake. Nothing like chocolate. More like, lychee got caught in a jungle thunderstorm and came out cooler. You nod slowly. That's wild. A woman laughs. That's just the beginning. The cacao fruit is eaten fresh by farmers, but the beans, the bitter ones inside, are the magic ingredient. Toasted, fermented, ground. Made into drinks, pastes, spice mixes. Even mixed with chili and honey for thick, bittersweet snack sauces. You sip a cacao drink next. Not sweet. Thick, gritty, smoky. Spiced with ground flowers and just a touch of agave syrup. It's not a dessert, it's an experience. Your fingers tingle. Your thoughts sharpen. You feel regal. Here's your quirky fact. Some Aztec priests would fast for days before drinking cacao during ceremonies. Others used it to wake up before battle or to seal agreements. Some scholars still argue whether cacao was more of a sacred stimulant or just a really good snack. Why not both? More fruit arrives. There's tejocote, like a tiny, tough apple, boiled down into jam and slathered on toasted maize cakes. There's nanche, small yellow fruits that smell like fermented candy and taste like mango dipped in vinegar. You pop one and make a face. Someone laughs. An acquired taste, they say. You agree. And then go back for a second. A girl offers you a skewer of grilled fruit, guava, banana, and pineapple chunks dusted in crushed chili and roasted over coals. The outside is caramelized. The inside is melting. Sweet and heat in perfect harmony. Then comes tamarind, traded from coastal markets. Sour, sticky, and pulped into chewy snacks wrapped in leaves. You try one with chili and a drizzle of honey. It warps your mouth in every direction. You grin like a lunatic. As you help sort fruit into drying baskets, someone hands you a round, red-skinned pitaya. The Aztec version of dragon fruit. It's cracked open to reveal fuchsia flesh speckled with black seeds. You scoop some out and taste summer lightning. Light, floral, slightly peppery. As afternoon melts into golden hour, you rest beneath a guava tree. Someone's roasting plantains, slicing them open and adding crushed peanuts and cacao nibs. You're too full. But somehow, there's always room for one more bite. The man beside you shares a story that during royal feasts, fruit was the final course, not just because of sweetness, but because fruit was seen as balance. Earth's laughter. The softest gift after the hardest war. He hands you a fruit tart, if you can call it that, pressed corn crust topped with mashed sapote, fig slices, and toasted amaranth. You eat it slowly, quietly, reverently. One final scholarly debate to savor. Some believe the Aztecs mapped fruit seasons to their sacred calendar, timing harvests with celestial shifts. Others say that's reading too much into tasty snacks. But as you lick guava juice from your lips, you wonder, why not align snacks with the stars? The sun sets behind baskets now half empty. You lie on your back, stomach full of every fruit you've never heard of, mind spinning in floral syrup and cacao dreams. Tomorrow, you're told, is the last snack. Something warm. Something soft. Something to hold as the sun goes down. You nod. Let it come. By now, your taste buds have traveled the full empire. You've crunched bugs, sipped flowers, eaten your weight in green goo and guava, and somehow lived to tell the tale. But this morning, the chinampa is still. No buzzing. No splashing. No crunching. Just a soft hum. A gentle rustle of maize husks. And the smell, warm, earthy, like corn whispering bedtime stories. You've reached the final snack. A woman sits by the fire, unwrapping a small bundle from steaming cloth. She lifts the edge and reveals a tamal, delicate and golden, nestled in a corn husk like a secret. She nods for you to sit. No loud flavors today. No eye-watering spice or syrupy sweetness. Just masa, corn dough, softened with lime water, blended with mashed beans and a touch of avocado leaf. No ceremony. No pomp. Just nourishment. You take it in your hands. It's still hot. Steam escapes as you break it open. You inhale slowly. Smells like every snack that's come before it, all the gardens, fires, grinding stones, and tender hands. You bite in. It is soft. So soft it almost melts. The flavor is humble, barely seasoned. A whisper of bean, a murmur of earth. But in that quiet bite is every loud memory, the fire-roasted chilies, the creamy avocado, the sharp crunch of grasshopper legs, the tang of tomato pulp on your tongue. All of it, settled. Balanced. This is the snack you hold at the end of the day. The one you eat when you've already eaten too much, but you need something warm in your hands to feel like everything is okay. Mainstream historians point out that tamales were everywhere in the Aztec world. Wrapped and steamed, filled with beans, squash, chilies, even fruits or amaranth. They were fast food, festival food, ceremonial offerings, and military rations. Portable, nourishing, sacred. You could live on them, march with them, pray with them. Today, you just sit with yours. There's a quiet debate among scholars about whether tamales were meant to be this emotionally resonant, or if we just assign our own stories to them. But here's the truth: sometimes a snack isn't just about flavor. Sometimes it's about rhythm, about timing, about sitting still after moving so far. You help your host wrap another tamal. The masa is smooth between your fingers, pliant, familiar now. She spoons in a dollop of black bean paste, folds the husk, and ties it gently. She shows you how to place it upright in the pot, how to keep the steam even. You nod. This is knowledge, passed hand to hand. You eat another one, this time with roasted squash. The sweetness is subtle, grounding. A child offers you a third, spiced with epazote and tomato. You laugh, holding it like a small bird, and take a slow bite. This is the last snack. Not the flashiest, but the one you'll remember. As the fire crackles low, people begin to gather. Someone brings out a drum. Someone else hums a song about the moon being made of corn. You smile. Maybe it is. One of the elders lights a bowl of copal resin. The smoke curls into the twilight, rich and heavy, as the last tamales are passed around. You close your eyes. The scent of masa, fire, and memory swirls around you. You're full, not just in your belly, but in your bones. You sit back against the trunk of a willow tree, the same kind that's anchored 1,000 chinampas. The stars are beginning to prick the sky. You eat your last tamal slowly, and it's perfect. Warm. Gentle. Enough. Tomorrow the sun will rise. The maize will be ground. The beans will boil. The chilies will roast. But for now you rest. Let yourself linger here a little longer. The fire is low now, just glowing embers flickering across the water's surface. A faint breeze moves through the reeds, soft and steady, like the lake itself is exhaling. You're no longer chewing. Just breathing. Letting the last warmth of that tamal settle gently in your stomach. You can hear the distant sound of oars dipping quietly into water, a canoe sliding past in the dark, its wake barely a whisper. Crickets hum in the background. A night heron calls once, then falls silent. The world is folding in on itself, like petals closing at sunset. The chinampa rocks ever so slightly beneath you, safe and anchored. You lie back, gaze up at the sky, and see the stars beginning to stitch themselves into constellations above the trees. Somewhere out there, beyond the city and the smoke and the hills, are all the fruits, seeds, and flowers you've tasted, still growing, still feeding someone. You feel your eyes grow heavier. Tonight you are full, not just of food, but of stories, of plants and people and the quiet magic that lives in every garden. You've tasted history. Walked barefoot through legacy. Snacked your way through a vanished empire. And now, it's time to rest. Let the chinampa drift a little, cradled by moonlight and memory. Let the wind hush your thoughts. Let sleep come softly. You're home.